it can't keep up with me, basically. No one can. It's hard. It's hard. Hello, everybody. I think we're live. Welcome, everybody. What's up? My name's Amanda. Welcome to Experts in Demand. Love to come to you today and have Be Live is ready and for your comments. And we're coming to you with an amazing, awesome rock star, recent graduate of my program, and just lovely to talk to Michele Thomson. Thank you for being here. Hi, Michele. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
How is Vancouver? What's it doing for you?
Typical Vancouver day, rainy, wet, but it's +9, so I'm not complaining. Having grown up in Ontario, I am not shoveling snow, so it's a good day.
Good trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about going to the grocery store in your flip-flops in February.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to rub it in about she's trying to rub it in, guys. No, that's great. That's awesome. And we're always, it doesn't seem like there's any time difference at all. It's just so great. You've been super flexible.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. Well, we're going to start off, guys. I want to introduce Michele, and today we're talking all about kind of emptying her cup. You'll learn a little bit more about, Michele's journey and just how fast, I use her as an example often of just how fast this transformation can take place. It's not exactly typical, but it's possible. So that's what the example is. And I want to share a little bit. Why don't you start by telling Michele a little bit about your business now and today, and how you help people?
Sure. So I have a consulting company that I started in 2017 called Curious Consulting. And now I support healthcare leaders to create respectful workplaces where shared values lead to exceptional outcomes.
Mm-hmm. What industry is that in?
So, I specialize in long-term care, but in healthcare in general. But my love and my passion has been in long-term care for many, many years.
Yeah, and then you were holding many leadership positions. So tell us about when you 6 months ago, what you were at a job, right? There was VP positions. You were in a leadership role already. So you had a job, right? You were doing what you liked. That's when we talked, right? Like you didn't.
Yeah. So I still do. And I think that was one of the things that, was really interesting for me, but also made kind of the first step kind of difficult, is that I've been working in long-term care since before 2006 and really working with seniors my entire nursing career. But I left my sector a few years ago thinking that I was just burnt out a little bit and needed a break, and came back because my heart called me back to it. And I'm fortunate enough to come back into a VP role with an amazing company that is really my dream job. I mean, I would argue to say that this is really the job that I've been waiting for my entire career. Mm-hmm. And so when I started, I kind of still felt like there was this gap missing. And I really struggled with that because I thought, why can't you just be happy? You finally have this dream job. You have an owner who allows you complete autonomy. He trusts you. You can really create this position into being whatever you want it to be. Why isn't that enough? Like, just be happy with what you have. And it really kind of was difficult for me to figure out why it wasn't enough. And it is. And I love doing what I do. But I
never felt the last year, maybe like in this last 8 months that disrupted that, or.
Well, I'd like to say COVID. I mean, I think COVID has been the root of a lot of self-discovery for many of us. But, I think just because I had my consulting company that I started a few years ago, and I continue to work with a client that I've been working with for several years, mm-hmm. I really just enjoy doing that work. And, I've always been told that I'm a good speaker and I educate well. And so that's really a space where I've just been able to play, but not been able to scale that into something that I could make a full-time job out of. And that's just been really kind of weighing on me. I'm at a point now where retirement's only 10 years away. Gosh. And, I want to be able to have the freedom to take my consulting business and kind of live my best life moving forward, and do the things that I'm passionate about and really serve the people that I feel I'm here to serve and serve that purpose. So that kind of got the juices flowing. And, you know, I'll be honest, before I connected with you, I got into the dark side of Facebook where, you know, you click on one link where it's like, oh, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just by clicking a click funnel or joining, you know, starting webinars. And it's a scary place to go. And I was there. That's literally where I was. And
what was scary about that?
Well, I think just because you open up this Pandora's box of not knowing what direction to go in. And I really just felt like they were all very sales pitchy and gimmicky, and that it wasn't going to lead me to where I wanted to be. It didn't feel like that was the path that I wanted to go on. I thought that I had a very clear vision about what my consulting company was to look like and where I wanted it to go. And after a few days, I remember, I think it was a post that you had just randomly came up on my Facebook feed. And I remember the image more than the caption. And it was of a woman in a beautiful dress sitting on a sofa with a piece of tape over her mouth that said, if you want to be a expert in demand speaker, or something to that effect. And I was like, that speaks to me. That's speaking my language. And so when I clicked on it and I, you know, kind of read a little bit more about, you know, what you do. And it wasn't long after that you and I had our first conversation together.
Yeah, I think you took a couple of action steps in there, right? And I'm curious about, like, because you'd said, so like, this is interesting. You're in your, what you thought was a dream job. You also have a consulting firm. It's not like you're hurting, you know, or, you know, going to be destitute or can't make rent next month or anything like that. It's just, what do you think was there was a gap in your words, but why wasn't the consulting, like, would the consulting have gotten you there? Because didn't you have it figured out already, since you already had, you know, vision for your consulting? What do you think that piece was missing?
Yeah, I think I had a vision, but I had no idea how to implement it. Like I find in our sector, a lot of consulting is by word of mouth, and consulting isn't always just used outside of kind of organizations unless there's a real purpose around training or curriculum development.
Right.
And so it for me, I was getting really good reviews and I have a lot of contacts, but it just wasn't something that I saw I could scale on my own. And even though I thought I was very clear about what the clients I was working with wanted, wasn't really the case when I really.
Now you're bringing back my memory to our first conversation.
Oh, I was a mess on that call.
Yeah, I go, what fires you up? And you're like, it's all over the map. Like, I have so many things to say, because what's happening in your job, you were saying that you're seeing so many, like, what was ticking you off? I asked this of a lot of people, like, there were things about your industry, and you don't have to go into it because it's a very specific industry. There's a lot of things that you weren't able to move forward, neither as a VP or as a expert consultant already. It's like, why isn't this moving forward? So tell me then, jump forward to, like, what are you creating now? What is the outcome that you are creating now for people? Right? Like, and what's something about it's hard to remember, like, it's hard to remember back, but the direction you're taking now is just so much different. I think that's what is interesting for people to hear.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I think back to our first phone call, I've always really thought that I've been a fairly organized thinker, and I come pretty prepared. And I remember getting off that first call with you thinking, like, you're just an absolute train wreck on that call. Like, you sounded like an idiot, because I I remember just being all over. Like, I literally was all over the place. And I felt like I had no focus, and really, I mean, by no fault of your own, I was more confused in terms of what I was supposed to be doing at the end of that call, because I thought I had it figured out. And the great thing is that you made me realize I didn't figure it out, and that I needed help, and that I couldn't do this on my own. And I would never get to where I am now, not in 8 weeks, but like ever. Like, I would have never gotten there on my own, because
I know we haven't even talked about, like, what's happened in the last 8 weeks.
Well, I didn't know what I needed to know. And I thought what I did know was the right way. And really and truly, it was not. And I think that you get a lot of those, when I got off the phone call with you, you get a lot of those thoughts, like, who are you? Like, who do you think you are? Like, what are you doing? Just be happy with what you're doing. And self-doubt. And I've learned now that, a lot of that, those emotions for me anyways, are based in fear. It's fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear that I'm going to try and fail. And that's really limiting for me. Like, as soon as I could get past that fear piece, it was just like I was off to the races.
Okay, so then that's the $1 million question. What did it take? Because what I always say about you is you were someone that just decided to empty your cup. Like, talk about coachable. Like, you're definitely eloquent and you have a lot going on that needed to be reined in. But what made you decide, or I guess, what is empty? Because I like that as a theme for today. What did it take to decide and get out of your own way?
Yeah.
Because if there was all the fear, what are you going to do? It's hard to probably even remember.
Well, I mean, I think it was that. And I was just going to say that, is that I had to just get out of my own way. I had to just get to that spot where I had to realize that I was the only barrier that was preventing me from getting from where I was to where I could be. And you were so passionate on that first call. And I remember you saying to me, Michelle, I already can see it. Like, I have the vision. I'm not sharing it with you yet because I need you to believe it. And I need you to get it on your own.
I always say that. I can see it all. Like, that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what I'm here for, because I'll give it to you. So open up and like say, here you go. But when you're ready, because the emptying your cup. So and you were so good even week to week. I remember, like, not only just that you're a good student, you know what I mean? But it was what is emptying your cup? What have you learned about yourself as a learner, or like just trusting, I guess? Because emptying your cup to me means trusting the process. Do you remember like anything about that?
Yeah. Well, again, and I was just going to say, I think in that first call, when I got off the call, because I felt more confused than I had, and I didn't have the clarity that I thought that I had, I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself at all. But I trusted you. I could already, like, by the end of that first hour, I already was like, Amanda's the person that I need. Like, she's my person. She's the person that's going to help me get to where I need to be. And I trusted you, and I trusted the process, and I trusted the passion that you brought to that call. And that was enough, I think, to really kind of just succumb to that and hand it over. And I remember you saying to me, are you coachable? And for me, that was like a real turning point, because I knew that I was. There was something inside that was really fighting against it. And I really believe that action reduces confusion. And I was so confused, but I was kind of in that limbo state of not ready to kind of take the action. And the minute that I took that action and just dove into it, all of the confusion went away. Because by the end of the first week, I remember I was saying to you, I was like, I had this like epiphany just with the first week exercise in week 1. All of a sudden, the clarity of my purpose and who I was serving was like, it was there. So yeah, I think for me, I just needed to get.
I want to take some credit for that, though. Yeah, and you have to take some credit for that, and that comes back to you wrestled with it. Wrestle. It's like, am I coachable? Am I willing to trust? As soon as you decided, it shows up. Isn't that so funny? That's time and time and time again with anything, time, energy, money. Any time that we decide to show up, it happens. So let's jump forward a little bit, because you're just awesome. You're remembering so much too. Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. Tell me about so you came very far. So I remember even there were some weeks where you're like, okay, I did this, but I also did this and this. Is that okay? I'm like, wow, okay, let's get into this, because you got your registration page. You're building a course now. You don't have to get all the details if you don't want to, but you're actually created something. Like, you have an outcome. I want to be clear that to people. Like, I don't deliver an informational course. This is an outcome-driven course, and there are things that you will have that you will use for the rest of your life. Period. Fully done, fully branded. Michelle doesn't even have to create another piece of think up another good idea, because we have literally brought everything out of her, filtered it, and she can use it all in multiple ways. Yet, true or not true?
Oh, very true.
It's kind of how it is.
I mean, I had this kind of approach niggling in the back of my head for years, that builds off of a philosophy that we have in long-term care. And I could never understand why it was never applied in a leadership concept. And when I mentioned it to you one day, you were like, that's it. Like, that's it right there. Wham, like put a trademark on it. We're done. Like, stop talking. That's it. And yeah. And so, I mean, it sounds very cheesy, but the rest is history.
Okay. Yeah, the rest is history already history. But tell me a little bit about, now I know you haven't gotten into like the full price or anything, but like, tell me about the price. I think this was only, honestly, guys, it was like week 3. And then you were like, okay, I've got this like sample registration page, and I zoomed right to the price. And I'm like, is that yours? Is that the price you're planning on offering this? Do you remember that? It was like,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't like giving numbers and getting people, but it was not acceptable. And you read what you were like, no, trust me, that's not mine. Because you knew already the expectation, because now you had the quality that wouldn't fly anymore.
Yeah.
Like that price, it probably didn't even feel right.
No. And so, and I haven't even told you this yet because I just like looked last night, but I think one of the things, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but you know, when we spoke earlier, one of the things that I do differently now that I would not have done 8 weeks ago is putting myself into spaces that are really kind of out of my wheelhouse. Right. And I think using your words is, you know, I'm still learning how to flex this muscle of being a thought leader, and I look at things different. I look at the way I read articles and information and how I can use that in my own way differently now because of that. But I've also learned to start putting myself out into places that typically have not been comfortable for me. And so I'm on a Facebook page for healthcare leaders in long-term care. And I think about a week ago, I just kind of put a little thing out there that said, hey, I'm developing a 6-week online course for healthcare leaders, and it's talking about person-centered leadership. Would anybody be interested in this or want more information? And I already have 11 people that said, when you decide to launch it, let me know. Now, there's, you know, I mean, to say there's no commitment, but I mean, all I did was put out a post. And so I think for me, that's what I want people to kind of also take away from this, is that I would not have even done that 8 weeks ago, let alone thinking that like, who am I to like be posting about a 6-week course? And I haven't even completely developed it yet. And I'm already being cheeky enough to be like, no, I'm going to market this.
That's right. Let's make no mistake. This course is not completely done. Can I just reiterate that, guys? It doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about. And the reason I'm celebrating like this, it's not like the number that 11 people got back to you. If 2 people got back to you, that's your validation I'm celebrating. And it's you putting that out there. That is what I'm celebrating right now. Because Michelle week 1 would not have done that. No, she would not have done that. Like, I'm so happy. I've got little goosebumps everywhere.
And the irony is that I would have probably done that in my professional career, like for my organization or for people that I'm here to serve, but I would never have done that for myself. And that just seems so ridiculous that I would not be willing to do that for myself. And
like step in as the expert, like I'm launching. You can stand behind a company and I'm the VP and blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to like, this is my thing, you're right. That's
and I mean, I think for me that, you know, that was in part the imposter syndrome that came up for me, because I thought like, this is something that you tell your leaders that you work with about taking care of self and supporting yourself and recognizing, you know, how you develop your own resiliency, and then in turn you can support people better. And I was completely ignoring myself and the things that I needed to fill up my bucket. So, you know, then you start going down that, like, you know, the self-doubt and you start having all of those imposter syndrome thoughts that can take you to a really dark place. But for me, I was just like, no, that's not how this is going to roll. I'm in it, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to put my best foot forward. And you held me accountable too. I mean, already this week, I'm looking, it's the first week that we don't have our weekly calls, and I'm kind of like, oh. No, it was just, those calls are amazing for so many reasons. And I've said this to you before. I mean, those calls were nothing short of wizardry some days, because I think the one thing that, or one of the things, if you were to ask me my top 3 things, one of the top 3 things that I came away from was the power of words, and how powerful words are, and not just, stringing them together, but really in terms of like a whole concept, and not even just from a branding perspective, but just the power of words are so important. And that's your superpower. I mean, you really just can bring things out using words. And for me, there'd be days when I would just be kind of chatting and you'd be like, oh, so this is what you mean? And I'd be like, oh my God, like, you're just like a wizard. Like, yes, that's exactly what I've been trying to articulate. So yeah, the calls are amazing.
Awesome. And now, so that's the thing, like you just said it, that's my wheelhouse. It's my superpower. And what I'm just so jazzed about is like, you're going to be getting out there and getting this feedback from other people. How amazing is that going to be when you get your first, right, manager, nurse, company hiring you for whatever, and going, Michele, you stopped a runaway train is what you did. The life transformation you're going to be able to impart is, oh, that's such a blessing to know that is coming your way and that you built that. The guide brought it out, did it, packaged it up, but it is yours. And make no mistake, I mean, there's support here for you, and there's other ways to work together and all that. It doesn't end, including, being a role model in this group, getting the continued support, not only from like other students, but future students or whatever, or just business owners trying to do this. That's why I started this thing. And so that self-empowerment, because it would have been just so easy, guys, for Michele to say, what is wrong with you? Suck it up. Everyone has bad days. Everybody feels like this. I'm a VP. Not everybody loves their job. And sure, there's other things they could be doing, but it was something on your heart, but it was something really lacking. There was a gap, and people weren't getting the solution from institutions, from government, from service. You're in the healthcare industry for so many years. Nobody's catching this ball. Everyone dropped that ball. You stepped in and picked up the ball. So there's empowerment in that. I think you'd agree. Yeah. So that's what I wish. And no matter what the industry, it is so great to step into having other people just articulate that. I could talk about what I do all day. It doesn't make it. It doesn't matter, because it's the experience of the person on the other end. So Michele, I thank you for emptying your cup, for trusting the process, for being open with me, for letting me fill that cup up, and the team every single week.
Yeah.
Never questioning the process, just like, woo, but also sharing your journey along the way. Cause it's, it's helpful to be like, oh, where's she at? Where she need to be? Okay. Whoop, bring her back. Now we got her. Let's go. Now there's forward movement again. So such a fun ride.
Thank you. It has been. I think that, one of the things I'd also like people to know, Amanda, is that, this course is really empowering to get where you want to be in terms of, a business goal or aspiration. And I want to shout from the rooftops and tell everybody about you and the course, and do whatever I can to support anybody coming behind me. But I think that the one thing that was like kind of a self-discovery also is that when you kind of step in and you lean into your purpose, and your goals become very focused, and you kind of know your path, it allows other things in your life to start coming in. And, I've been putting off filling my bucket just personally for a long time. I mean, partly it's this last year has been difficult for everybody, but I've been putting off joining a pottery class, which I've been wanting to do, and getting back to my yoga practice, and, eating better and taking care of and self-nurturing. And all of those things are now starting to align for me. I finally, signed up for a pottery class last week that I've, like I said, been putting off for a week. And I'm, easing back into those things that I just spoke about. So, I think that that's really a powerful message for me as a healthcare provider too, is to let people know that, I've worked with First Nations a lot across BC. And one of the things that I've learned from their cultural teachings is that everything's connected. And so you can't, there's really not ever a belief of balance, because when something in your life is tilting, you never really come back to center because everything is connected. And so the idea is really just to make sure that you've got all facets of your life that bring you joy and happiness, that help you balance, so that when one is out of whack, you have the ability to have another piece step in its place. And so for me, all of those pieces that have been missing, that have filled my bucket, are starting to come back in now. And I just feel like things are starting to align a little bit better. So I think for me personally, that's a really important message that I'd like people to also know, is that you're not just going to get the professional piece out of this. There's a lot of self-discovery in 8 weeks. Like I learned a lot about myself.
2 months. Like,
there's yeah, you get in there and you get dirty and deep on some stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that was a piece for me that when I was thinking about our time together today, I really, that came top of mind. And I thought that was a really important message that I wanted people to leave with.
Sharing that. Thank you. That's so valuable, not only right here, but just for me, and as a reminder, and as a reminder that you are now walking your talk. That's been my tagline from day one. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's just a joy talking to you. I love talking to you. Of course. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk real soon. Okay. Thanks, Michele. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
I'm going to have a link below, guys. If you heard Michele, if you want to know what she's up to, what she did, what it took to get there, the call she was talking about, it's a breakthrough call. It's like 45 minutes of your time, but it could, transform a lot, whatever happens at the end. And I'm going to leave that link probably in the post above. So it's open for anybody here. Okay. Thank you for your time, Michele. Thank you all for watching. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you.
Bye now. Bye.